McLaren has sparkled in the early stages of the 2025 Formula One season, but a black cloud lurks as the European summer stretch moves on. Monaco, long a testing ground for car stability and driver brilliance, may have concealed a larger developing issue. Despite Lando Norris's fantastic pole position to win and McLaren's consistency showing through, there are murmurs of anxiety behind the paddock gates. The forthcoming Spanish Grand Prix will see the installation of a long-anticipated technical directive, which has the potential to rewrite the balance of power. And for McLaren, it might be the first true test of their domination. Even on an unusual track like Monaco, McLaren showed to be a very effective car, taking Lando Norris, the creator of a fantastic late push in qualifying, to the very vital first place in Monaco. Sunday is not often indicative of the true values on the playing field, because to exasperated tactical management of tyre strategy, unlike Saturday, which is the true litmus test of the values. On Saturday, Norris's MCL39 was the only one to break the 1 minute and 10-second barrier, taking pole position from a resurgent Ferrari and a Charles Leclerc who was always in top form at home. McLaren won the race on Saturday, using a double-hit tactic on the soft. Stella's reaction: the C6 compound is still difficult to interpret. Lando Norris also secured a super pole position with a plan that allowed him to make 3 attempts, the last 2 on the same tyre. The C6 compound remains a critical aspect that the teams must carefully consider when determining its placement in the operating window. At Imola, it was unclear which tyre was preferable for qualifying between the soft C6 and medium C5, and even in Monaco, the difference between the 2 tyres was not more than 0.2. Poleman Norris's plan of making 2 attempts on the same tyre was successful, as he reduced his time by roughly 0.2 on the last try, on a tyre that had already been run in for 1 lap. Stella reiterated in the post-qualifying that the C6 remains a difficult compound to interpret, with performance varying from car to car. We spoke to Oscar and Lando, and they were both very much in agreement that they could do their best lap on a soft tyre that was already run in. Finally, both McLaren drivers improved in Q3 compared to their last try. It was an unusual strategy, and one that we are not used to seeing in Q3, but for us, it was clear that our car and our drivers were at their best when the tyre was slightly used. Ferrari finished 1/10 behind the MCL39 without making any changes to the setup, which was not surprising. McLaren confirms itself as a car capable of making a difference in the slow and exiting corners. For the first time this year, however, the Woking car did not appear to be so clearly superior, having never monopolized the free practice sessions as it had done the previous weekends. Even before the free practice sessions began, the team principal of the Constructors' World Champions highlighted the possibility of a competitive SF25 on the streets of the Principality. The speed of the Ferrari? It didn't surprise me, I had already spoken about it during the show and tell. Ferrari has traditionally fared exceptionally well on the streets of Monaco. Regardless of its success in 2024, the Maranello team has always had a strong technical package to demonstrate in Monte Carlo and on the streets in general. Ferrari has a tradition of great competitiveness in Monaco in recent times. It will certainly have had good references from the past. On Thursday, the Ferrari drivers, led by Leclerc, stated that the SF25 was designed to struggle with slow corners, owing to a compromise in the setup. This year, their car seems to be better at high speeds, and perhaps they have lost a bit of performance at low speeds, but I am not sure. In Monaco, where the setup must be optimized for traction and the passing of slow portions, there is no need for specific compromises, which is why, according to Andrea Stella, a competitive red car is possible in Monaco. Between aerodynamic tests and unique choices, is there a large window at McLaren that Spain's TD could narrow? Ferrari has decided to reintroduce the identical rear wing for the SF25 that raced on the same circuit last year. McLaren, for its part, has added a rear wing to its MCL39 to compete on the tricky city track. In comparison to the 2024 specification, it is not a full downforce specification. A comparison with the previous edition's specifications reveals that the main profile is somewhat less loaded at the extremities, with a considerably more visible spoon than the wing design from a year earlier. This year, McLaren demonstrates outstanding balance, a very strong front end, and a rear that easily follows the front of the MCL39. The implementation of the Australian rule on rear wing flexing, reinforced in China, had an impact on the Papaya car, causing the English team to lose an average of 3 to 4 kilometers per hour. On a circuit like Monaco, it is unusual to see an aerodynamic option that does not maximize rear wing incidence. The English team worked on experimental aerodynamic specifications, just as Ferrari did with the rear brake intakes at Imola. The diffuser brought to Arabia was on the MCL39 and should have been part of a data collection job that the Woking team would have done during free practice in Jeddah. The extractor with the redesigned keel, referred to as a test component, was not re-proposed, whereas Ferrari, for example, promoted the experimental sections to the back. McLaren's revised diffuser has arrived in Jeddah, but has yet to be mounted. Wing directive comes in Spain. Will McLaren wait until after the event to introduce big updates? The key TD on the front wings will arrive in Spain, which is seen as the true deadline for McLaren to become catchable for those chasing. Team Papaya has surely not been unable to wait without resorting to repairs. Mercedes revealed a new specification wing in Imola that is expected to be more stiff. James Allison's squad, along with Marshall's McLaren, has been identified as one of the teams that best take use of the front wing group's deflection. Ferrari will unveil its revised specification in Barcelona, but McLaren has stated that it would not be harmed to the point of crippling the MCL39. There is little doubt that those who understand how to best navigate the new constraints will benefit, possibly through some data collecting work on the track, with a more stringent specification. It would not be unreasonable to assume that the team has worked in this direction. So far, no substantial package has come on the MCL39, despite the fact that Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull have already taken the first steps with their cars. According to reports, a cargo is on its way to Silverstone and Austria. That brings us immediately to Red Bull and the second part of the story, which McLaren may not want to hear. Red Bull achieved a significant target ahead of the Spanish GP. Red Bull had a relatively quiet weekend in Monaco, with Max Verstappen settling for 4th place. After a dominating victory in Imola, Verstappen's RB21 had no answer for McLaren or Ferrari in the Principality. Yuki Tsunoda, on the other hand, was largely powerless in the Grand Prix, with a bad qualifying performance, destroying his prospects of gaining points. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, Verstappen remained within striking reach of the McLaren combination. According to team principal Christian Horner, this was Red Bull's goal heading into the Spanish GP, when the long-awaited new technical guideline will be implemented. The Austrian team, they expect the balance of power to shift in their favour this weekend. The first major news of the 2025 season broke well before the lights went out in Australia for round 1. The FIA made a series of announcements, including the implementation of a new technical directive in Spain that dominated pre-season discussion. The impact of these adjustments, which are intended to prevent teams from finding ingenious ways to avoid flexi-wing constraints, has been widely disputed. However, there has been little debate within the Red Bull camp about how this edict would shape the pecking order. In short, the Milton Keynes outfit believes that if this new rule is applied, McLaren's performance may suffer. Following the Monaco Grand Prix, Christian Horner's comments confirmed the prevailing sentiment. "We rolled the dice today. It didn't work, and our best chance was a safety car or a red flag or VSC, as you're never going to overtake on track here. We went long with Max, and he led a lot of the laps today, but ultimately had to take that final stop. For Yuki, we did the inverse and pitted him on lap 1. Initially, it looked like he would get significant benefit from it, but then everyone started to drive extremely slowly as they started playing around with their tactics. So, damage limitation today. We have only given away 3 points to Oscar, the championship leader. And we go into Barcelona within a race win, and that was the target, to hit this regulation change. The calm before the storm might be past. The Barcelona weekend will be more than just about enhancements. It will also be a referendum on whether McLaren's edge can withstand the flexi-wing crackdown. If the MCL39 suddenly appears mortal, anticipate the pendulum to swing violently. Red Bull is lurking, Ferrari is circling, and in the background, the rulebook may eventually catch up with the orange machine in front.